All right, good evening, guys. If I could get a little sound check here, make sure I'm good on sound, please. Hello, CC. How are you, sir? I'm going to give it a couple more minutes. Let if there's anybody that wants to straggle in or whatnot, and that way I don't have to go back and repeat charts and whatnot. Is there anything that you want me to look at specifically before we start, CC? Oh, oh, sorry. Oh, shoot! I see your picture now. Hang on. I gotcha. Okay, ma'am. My bad. Link. And it's funny you mention Link because I am actually in Link, and I like it. I really do. Let me see where all this. After it made this little move here and then came back and retested the 786, it's obviously loves that support area. So I'm going to go ahead and get that out of the way since that's gone now. I drew in some. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I didn't even notice. My bad. My bad. So anyway, right here, up here at the 38.2, that's going to be your first resistance, which it was back over here or close to. I think once it breaks that, then up here I got a fib cluster, right, at 272. I mean, it'll meet some resistance in this area, but I just don't know that resistance is going to hold. You know what I'm saying? I think this is a more important resistance area. Once it clears this little area right over here, basically on a closing basis and gets more oomph going behind it, then I think it eventually gets up to 272 and possibly even higher. I have no idea what kind of news. This company seems to come out with news every now and then, and it's usually blockbuster news. But we'll see what happens. I mean, it looks pretty good up to 272 if it can break this high over here, right? So that's what I like about Link, and I do own a position. Disclaimer. So what else did you want me to look at before I delve into Bitcoin or anything else? Oh, you're welcome, Chad. A lot of these alts are really starting to look kind of primed. You know what I mean? But again, it's all going to depend on Bitcoin dominance, right? Because that's the one that really either drives alts or kills alts, right? And as long as we can keep this thing just right around in this area, right here around 70, then I think things are good to go, right? But if Bitcoin starts to show any kind of momentum at all, then you know what happens. Most people probably try to dump their alts if they're in the USD pair, right? Now, if they're in the BTC pair, then obviously it's a difference. But anyway, going to Bitcoin real quick, I posted this the other night in the channel. And this was the idea, right? We had the inverted head and shoulders, right? And the neckline, which we broke through, right? And at that point, I knew it was, or just, not that I knew, but I just, typically in this sort of pattern, it just doesn't go straight up, right? It's going to come back and usually test or get close to testing the neckline breakout, right? So what I did is I drew some fibs on it, and then I also thought of Elliott waves. And in Elliott waves, when you get this first move up, right, that's a one move up. That's your first move. and then you correct back for a wave 2. Wave 3 is usually an impulsive move, which this one was. So the thinking was that, okay, this could be just a 5-wave move, right? So for this whole thing to play out and to work out perfect, then we cannot drop below wave 1, right? We can't go below that area, right? Which, give or take a few sats, 7,600 is the area. But at the same time, the 38.2 is right here at 3,690. So anywhere between 7,600, and maybe even if it wicked to 7,500, as long as it doesn't close below there, I'm fine with it. But this area right here should be your rebuy zone, right? So this is coming down according to plan. And not only that, but we were way outside the Bollinger Bands. And you guys know how I feel about that, right? Anytime we get way outside Bollinger Bands, price needs to come back in and correct a little bit, okay? So if everything plays out, then Bitcoin should rally off this and make a move towards 9,000. Should. Doesn't mean it will, right? This is Bitcoin, and we all know how Bitcoin is. This could have just been some sort of little correction move. But your area to watch, you don't want to see it break back below the neckline that we broke out of, right? So that's going to be your area. And I'll just call it, just being conservative, let's just call it anywhere between 7,550 and 76 or 7,700, right in this area. So we'll see. I think probably more shorts that were short back in here are probably piling back in right here, just thinking that they got a gimme, right? They got a layup. But we'll see. So that's what I got on Bitcoin, at least for the daily chart. Yeah, just a obvious retracement right there. So we'll see what happens. What else do you guys want to look at? And did you guys want me to? I was actually going to go over some stuff. If you guys don't understand patterns or head and shoulders and how you come up with measured moves, just let me know. I mean, I think anytime I spend more than an hour on YouTube, I start everybody's patience kind of wears thin. Time frame on Bitcoin, I would be looking at it could be any day. Yeah, I mean, I would say probably the 20th of January if it starts to play out. I'm just going off my thinking, right? So we're looking at between now and the 20th. So you got a little over a week. I mean, I don't think it's going to get there overnight, but if this thing starts to curl back up, then it's going to get people thinking that this is going to, the Momo's there and the bears just got tagged, right? So that's what I'm watching for. Look at a 3-day, sure. Okay. And here's another thing too. Here's another one I want to point out, and I just saw the 3-day, right? So let's look at this just real close, right? And I look at candlesticks quite a bit. Do you see this green? Like, some people would want to call it a gravestone doji, right? That's a mistake. That is a big time mistake. You have to look at the color of the candle, right? And this is probably one of my more favorite candlestick patterns, to be honest with you, because what happens here is that, you had a big green day. The next day, the bulls come in, they drive it price higher, but then they sell off and bears are coming in, right? Shorts are coming in. They're trying to push this down lower, but they could not get it inside that green stick, right? They couldn't make it a red day, right? A lot of people miss that. A lot of people look at candlesticks like that and they think, oh, well, that's a shooting star, we're going down, right? No. I look at the other way. Bears could not take over, and so they got stopped right here, and the day closed green. Now we're starting a new candle. Let's see if we make the push higher. That's typically what happens, right? At least in my experience. So, no, I'm not looking for a double top. No. I mean, I'll be shocked if it is. In my experience, I just think that this is a break of an inverted head and shoulders, and it's going to go up and hit the area that I was talking about that we need to get to. And then we'll see what happens, because right up here is a lot of resistance, right? The 200 and the 233. That's a lot of resistance right there. So I don't know that it's going to blast right through that immediately. No, I'm not saying it can't form a double top. I'm just saying that I don't think it will. I mean, sure, anything can form a double top. It can do, I mean, Bitcoin is Bitcoin, right? And stocks are stocks. Just because I say it from what I think it's going to do doesn't mean it's going to happen. I'm just going off experience and how I see things. Let's see. The 3-day from June 24th until now. Okay. Let's go look. Yeah. Why are you looking at a 3-day? If you don't mind my asking. I would rather just look at a daily chart. Did I just lose everybody? Oh, there we go. That was weird. It showed 0 people watching, and then all of a sudden it went back to where it was. Okay. So anyway, my question on looking at that looks like sending wedge for the 3rd time got rejected. Yeah, you can. I mean, if you want to do it that way, you can. And to me, I never look at a 3-day chart. I stick to the basics, right? I stick to a hourly chart, a 4-hour chart. Occasionally, I'll look at a 2-hour. It's all time based, right? But that's too much to look at, right? Just try to keep it simple. To the range lows, what I could care less what other people are thinking. If I was thinking what they were thinking, I'd be broke. Right? So I'm not gonna sit there and listen to a lot of people that maybe don't have the experience, or they just started in this, or whatever, or they had too many beers or smoked too much pot. Whatever, I'm not gonna listen to that crap. I mean, I've been doing this a long time. I don't need to, it's not like, no, I'm not saying I can't learn something every day, right? I can, but I'll stick with what I'm doing. I think it's worked out pretty well so far. I'm not perfect, by the way. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're going to get people out there, but here's what happens is when you get people out there that they're going to wear their emotions on their sleeves, right? So put it in your shoes. If you was short, right? And let's just say maybe you sold out too early, or you sold out of everything and you didn't have any Bitcoin whatsoever, and you're sitting there going, oh gosh, I really want it to drop. What are you going to do? You're going to go out on Twitter, and especially if you got a bunch of followers, you're going to go out there and you're going to try to, get people to believe that this is going lower. Well, they don't know. I don't know. I'm just going off the experience and what I'm looking at in the charts and what I'm seeing, and I'm sure they are probably too. But if they come on there and they don't post the evidence, then what good is that? Don't listen to just somebody posting something. Prove it. What's their reasoning behind it? That's what I want to see. So anyway, that's kind of what I got on Bitcoin. And I'm sorry to ramble, but sometimes I can't help it. I see a lot of people out there that are brand new to this and they don't know what the heck is going on, and they just want to babble on. And hey, Fabio, how are you doing, sir? Good to see you. BLX. CC, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's just me. I'm sorry if I ramble like that. I'm sorry. That's my opinion. So, you know. Fabio, BLX. What are you talking about? Hmm. Oh. Yeah. So is that a stock or is that a crypto? What is it? BLX or BLX? Oh, liquid index. I don't ever look at that. Nah. I mean, maybe I should, learn about it. But hey, Friesen, how you doing? BLX is Brave New Coin. Okay, liquid index. All right, let's just pull it up and see. Again, I mean, why do we? It looks similar to Bitcoin. I don't understand why we're looking at this. It's the almost the exact same chart. You're, in my opinion, that's too much stuff to look at. So focus in on it. It's real simple, folks. Just everybody's going to come up with other stuff you should look at, but keep it simple, especially if you're just starting out, right? And you're just learning stuff. Keep it simple. That's all I ever try to preach. Just look at a chart, do the simple stuff, and go from there. Don't try to look at too many things. It gets in your head. You know what I'm saying? And then you can't focus on what you're trying to do. That's why I don't look at that crap. Yeah, it's the same to me. I just don't. I could care less. And I don't mean that in a rude way. I don't. I'm just saying for people that are new, that's the last thing you ought to be looking at. You ought to be pulling up a Bitcoin chart and just keeping it simple, right? Just keep it simple. It's not so. And I'm going to go back to my basics on some stuff, right? And you guys have seen me, and I've tried to drill it in heads that when price is above, and this is probably, you could just do a Bollinger Band only if you wanted to and trade off that. When price gets down to the lower Bollinger Band, sure, why not take a position, but then, make sure to keep your stop a little bit lower just in case it goes below the Bollinger Bands. It's not going to go just straight down and then bounce right back in. I mean, we've been over this time and time again, and when price gets outside of the Bollinger Bands, price has to come back in. Draw some, horizontal line. Go back and look at, previous areas of resistance or the Fibonacci retracements. It's pretty basic, simple stuff, but it's worked over years and years and years. Everybody wants to come up with new stuff, and I get it. Maybe there's some smart people out there coding wise and whatnot that can do stuff, but for years this stuff has always worked, right? So, Anyway, that's kind of my thinking. And if you guys remember me talking about this a while back, I'll zoom out. And I think I talked about it when I did a live stream when we were back down in here somewhere in this area, and everybody was thinking, hey, we're dropping all the way down. And I was like, if we get below this area, then sure, we could drop farther, right? But we hit the 1272 and started to bounce off it. But I was like, look where the 200 and the 233 day moving average is, right? And if you go back in time, right, and I'll scroll out, what normally happens? It comes back and tests it. Comes back and gets close to testing it. Went all the way up here, but came back and tested it. Tested it again, tested. It gravitates toward that 200 and 233 day moving average, right? And so here we are again. And this is why I'm saying is that we're going back toward the 200 and the 233 day moving average to test it, or at least in that area, right? What happens after that, I can't promise a thing because I don't know. But what I do know is that based on history, we always come back and we test that 200 and 233 day moving average. I don't ever look at Keltner. I don't look at the Keltner channel. I'm sorry. Again, that's one of those things. I mean, and I'm not saying you can't look at it. I mean, obviously everybody has to do what they want to do and that's the thing, guys, is that be comfortable with what you're comfortable with. Only you can figure that out. You don't have to do what I'm doing, right? I can give you some ideas on what to look at, but you're going to have to determine on your own what you're comfortable with, right? And don't let anybody try to change your mind and be like, hey, this is the best thing ever, blah, blah, blah. I can give you ideas on moving averages, Fibonacci, and Bollinger Bands, but you have to determine on your own what is best for you. What are you comfortable with, right? So, 20 years ago when I was learning this stuff, the guy that taught me, he was trying to show me a lot of stuff, and I was like, wait a second, let's just start slow. I'm good with moving averages and I'm good with Fibonacci, but then all this other stuff started coming up and it was confusing me. So I had to slow down, and I was like, I don't need all that on my plate at once. Let me start with something and get comfortable with it. Then I'll move on to the next one. And it'll happen with you too. You'll look at something and you'll be like, okay, I get this now. I've got this down pat. So now let me move on to the next thing and add this. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I recommend. Don't try to, throw Elliott waves and moving averages and all that stuff on your chart. It will just confuse the heck out of you. Just keep it simple. Real simple to start out with. Get comfortable with it, and then you move on and add another indicator and, start looking at stuff like that. But, yeah, you're going to hear a lot of stuff in Twitter, Facebook, wherever. People's going to have, and that's fine. Everybody has their own opinion on what something's going to do. And somebody's always going to be right. Somebody's always going to be wrong. So I recommend this. Here's what I recommend. Before somebody ever opens up an account, right, with Binance or whatever, just try in your mind, and I know it sounds corny, and it probably, people don't have patience for it because, they're like, oh, well, it's moving. I got to get in and I got to make money. No, paper trade a little bit and say, okay, I would have got in here. Write it down on a piece of paper, put it in your computer, wherever. Or there may be some places that let you do like a free trial, and they give you fake money, which I think is also kind of misleading because you think you have more money than what you do. But just in your mind, paper trade it and go, okay, well, here's where I got in, and here's, I'm going to sell right now, and just write it down on a piece of paper. Pretend that you have a stop loss. Here's where I would have got out. And just do something like that for a week or two, and see if your trading, philosophy is working. Why risk your real money on something you're not sure of? And I know there's a lot of people out there that maybe they don't have time for that, and you're looking for people to go to make calls for you, and that's perfectly fine. But be careful of what you get into and who you're following. That's all I'm saying. All right, so let's delve into some more charts, shall we? What else do you guys want to look at, or do you have any questions? I'm sorry, I babbled for about 5 minutes there, and that's my bad. Any chart requests or questions about how I do on my charts? Candles. Yeah, absolutely. You can, Adam. Oh, yeah. S-Finder. Yep. I'm going to look at Adam because I wanted to show that one. Fabio, let me do Adam chart real quick and I'll come right back to you because I do want to go over candlesticks. So Adam, and let's see here. There we go. All right, so look at this. And I've had this trend line in here for quite a while. I can remember when we were on a live stream, I think, and it was going up right here. And I originally thought that it would come back and test the trend line, and it never did, right? So I was totally wrong on that. It held the 20-day moving average and then went higher. But look where we're at right now. And Fabio, you'll like this because this will be a candlestick thing for you as well. But look what happens, and this is very important and something to keep an eye on with Adam. And I may have to change, let's see. Yeah, there we go. Let's get that. Yeah, we'll get that out of there. Okay, so look at this. Big move, double top, and now we've come all the way back down to the trend line, okay? Now, if I'm going to throw on a fib here, and I'm just going to throw on from this previous low up here, let's go up here. I don't know if that's, let me move that over because that was a higher high. I don't know if anything's going to line up right here or not because I haven't watched it lately, but let's see. That looks like, I think the 786 broke. Yeah. And let's do a 1272. Okay, so I'll put that there just for now. Let's do this as well. If that was the end of a bigger move. Okay, let's go this low over to that high, and let's see if maybe we get like a 382 or a 50% retracement off this. Let's see. Bingo. All right. So, and I'll put the 618 and all right, but this could be really key, okay? Look at this. So I took the retracement, okay, and I'll slow it down a little bit because I went through that kind of fast. But we had the big move down, okay? Right? Excuse me. Take your Fibonacci tool out, okay? Click on it, go to Fib Retracement. You click on that. And then you get your magnet tool on, right? And that's this little button right over here. Okay? You can see where it's a magnet. So it'll click on the wick, right? The low price. And then you draw that Fibonacci retracement from here up to the high. Okay? And then you go in and you can change your settings, right? You can right click right there, go to settings, and you can put your numbers in, right? And that's all I did. I put 382, 0.50, 0.618, 786, 1272, and a 1618. And look what we've got now. So if I zoom in a little bit, this is a big area for Adam, right? You had the trend line. It's come all the way back and tested the trend line, and it's tested the 382 retracement, right? It wicked down a little bit, but it still held it. So let's zoom in a little bit more and see what kind of candlestick pattern we got. Okay? All right, so look at this. When you're in a downtrend, right? You're in a downtrend and everything's looking bearish, blah, blah. You get a big red stick, and then all of a sudden this pops up. It's a doji, right? It's a doji candlestick, right? Almost equal lengths out the top and the bottom, right? Followed by a big green stick. That is a reversal pattern. And it's a reversal pattern off the trend line and off the 382. To me, that is very bullish, right? That doesn't mean it can't come back and pull back in a little bit and retrace some of that big green stick right there. It's not, I don't know that it's just going to go off to the races. It could. But it's also getting back above, you know, the 10 EMA, and it's going to test the 20. If this thing gets past, what is that, 5586? Let's just call it 5600. It could come back and retest these highs and possibly even break higher. Okay? And the other thing too, look at this. Price was below the Bollinger Bands on the daily chart. Look at that. You had a doji right below the Bollinger Bands. And we know how I feel about that. That would have been a perfect, and I wish I would have been watching this one closer, but I can only watch so many things. God, I wish I'd seen this. Man, I would have jumped all over this thing. But anyway, reversal pattern outside the Bollinger Bands, and boom, it takes off. God, what a beauty that is. So keep an eye on Adam in the next few days. As long as it holds this trend line, it's bullish, right? That's what I got on Adam. So hopefully that took care of two questions right there. Adam and then the candlestick pattern. Hey, Cryptonami, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm doing the best I can. Let's see. Fabio. Candles. Okay, so you wanted to know about candlestick patterns. So... and this is, you know, it's a good example right here on Adam. Okay, we'll just use Adam for an example. Big green stick, right? You see that? Big green candle. The next one, what happens? You get a red stick that totally engulfs the green stick. That's a bearish indicator, right? Yeah. I'll do it. XRP coming up here in just a couple. Followed by this, which I'm not going to call, it's not a stick sandwich because you have to have 3 candles for that. But then you get into, you know, it's almost like a big battle here between bulls and bears. You get a reversal pattern right here. So this thing was trying to reverse multiple times, right? And then it finally sold off. And then once it gets this, which is like almost, it's 3 in a row, but it's like 3 black crows is what I call it, right? You get 3 red sticks like this, and that is another reversal pattern. So this thing once, twice, 3 times was trying to reverse all the bull moves. So these were latecomers to the party, right? And they got hosed right up here. And then they're trying to buy back in, and then the bears come back in, or people are taking profits. And you get what's called a dark cloud cover pattern right here, which doesn't engulf, but it takes over 3/4 of the candle. That's called dark cloud cover. And then, boom, it finally just gives up. But now we're down to the trend line, the 382, and we get a reversal off that. So anyway, hopefully that helps. And I can go over more of these at a later time, but I know people have some questions about some other stuff, so we'll go over those real quick. Yeah, there really is, CC. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there about candlesticks, and I can post. Let me just do this real quick for you guys. Let me do this. Let me find, let's see. And okay, here we go. I'll give you a link. And this is, I mean, believe it or not, these guys have been around for a long time, but here we go. Stock charts, right? Stock charts will help you out a lot. It really will. So, and it's, it's free. I mean, there's other stuff you can pay for, but there's a lot of free info on that site, so I would take advantage of that. All right, so let's go look at XRP, and then we'll go to Monero. So XRP. All right. It's been a while since I updated this one. Let me see where I did that. Okay, that one's no good. Let me get that out of there. And I'll get, well, so I'll leave that in there to see, because where it bounced 618 after it made this low, and then it made a high, and then it came back down. That's a 61.8 retracement and bounced off that. So what's the next thing we want to do? All right. Let's go over here and do our fibs. Okay. And let's just draw from this swing high down to your swing low. Okay. It's busted through all of this, right? The 786. And I'm going to get a lot of this stuff out of here so you can kind of see what I'm thinking. And it clears up your chart as well. All right, so it busted through all that. And so logically, the next move is our old area of resistance right here, right? Used to be support and then turned into resistance, right? Resistance here, resistance here. That becomes a resistance line. So you throw that in there. And this just goes to show that not all the time is fibs going to be correct, right? It broke through the 78.6. And one would think when you break the 786, you're going to come up and test the high and possibly break it and move on to the 1272. So we've had this retrace, and let's go see how much we've retraced so far. And I'm just going to take, let's take it from this low over here. We'll actually do it both ways. And let's do this. Maybe a 786, 618. Bingo. All right. So right now it's trying to hold the 50% retracement area, but then let's also do this. And this is just something you have to get in your mind, right? You have to do this. See this area right over here? Does that not look conspicuous? Right? Resistance, resistance, resistance. And then it breaks through. So what are we going to do now? We're going to do this. Let's do a horizontal ray. Okay? And we're just going to draw it from this area of resistance. And we're going to change that to green because that should be a support area. All right? And it doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, it's not like it has to hold that line exactly because we got wicks in here, right? So a lot of people may just use line charts. And if I was to use line charts, then I'm going to drag this to there on a closing basis, right? Switch to lines. And then that way you can see boom, resistance, and now you can switch back to candles, and that's your area to hold. Right here. In between the 50 and the 61.8. So that's the line in the sand for XRP. As long as it holds that, then she's got a chance to break out of this. And it's just basically all consolidation, breakout, coming back, consolidate again, and then give it another shot and see if it can break through. If not, then Katie bar the door. But I just, in my mind, it just looks like it wants to go higher. That's just my opinion. But it's got to get past this old area of, what was support that turned into resistance. So break above the red line and she's good. But in the meantime, you're going to have probably a little bit of chop, right? Okay. So that is XRP. Let's go to Monero. And I think I've got that over here. On Monero, did you want the BTC pair or the USD? All right, very well. USD it is. Let's go. Get my eyeballs working. There we go. Okay. Monero. And so I have 0 fibs on this one. Nice, good volume. Wow, that was a big volume stick. What the heck happened there? Did it have news on that day? That was January 3rd. Did it have news? Does anybody know? I'm curious. Because anytime I see a volume spike like that with no news, it makes me wonder. Ah, okay. So it did have news. Obviously good news. Let's see. All right. So let's do this. Let's go get a longer term view and see what we got going on just real quick. All right. So we can do, let's at least just put our support down here. So we know that's major support down there. And then let's go ahead and do, okay. We'll do a fib retracement from this high back here all the way down to this low. And I will be shocked if it actually made the two. Yeah, there we go. It's close. All right, so the 0.236 right there, okay, that's going to be your first resistance. Let's zoom in a little bit, and then we'll go to a shorter and see if we get any fib clusters, right? Maybe a 786 lining up on something. Let's go to this high down to, and I guess it's this low actually. It's close enough. Wow, is that not amazing, guys? I didn't even, it's in my mind. I know where the 786 is, but look at this. This is your resistance right here. That's a fib cluster. So I'm going to let me get this stuff out of the way that it's already passed. And this is something you guys can all do, but look at this. You got the 2.236 and the 78.6 lining up almost on top of each other. And is it not surprising that once it gets close to that area, that's where it wants to just pause a little bit? That's a fib cluster. That is two fibs that line up on top of each other from different areas that I drew it, right? Not only that, but you got the 200 and the 233 coming down. So if it does break this, then you're going to have resistance up here. And look where that lines up. So these are things you just have to get in your mind, right? And I'll make it red because it's resistance, right? So if it does break this, that'll be resistance. And then here's another fib cluster right up here. That'll be resistance. But that would still be a hell of a move. That would be well over 10%, which I think anybody would take, right? So that's kind of what I've got on Monero. And not only that, but that looks like it was a falling wedge that broke, right? Draw a trend line from there to there, coming down, and you got this coming over. That was in a falling wedge, and it broke out of it. So what I like about it, though, is that it's above the 10 and the 20. It's inside the Bollinger Bands now, right? So it made this big move outside, coming inside and pausing a little bit just prior to big time resistance. So amazing. So did you guys understand how I did that fib cluster stuff? I mean, it actually works, guys. I'm just telling you. When you get multiple fibs lining up in the same spot, that either tells you major support, major resistance. And especially if they line up with, horizontal lines where old resistance was, or old support, new resistance. It works like magic, right? It's really not rocket science. Let's see. So yeah, I mean, I would say as long as it holds that 10 EMA, and I would just do this too real quick. And yes, I will do Neo for you here, Todd. Let's do this. Let's just see. And let's just say that that's a short-term top, right? Then what are we going to be looking for on the downside? If it wants to retrace more, you know what I'm saying? Because there's always buyback in spots and stuff like that. So it passed the 23.6. There you go. So you just throw in your fibs on the downside if that's a top. Now, if it breaks that, then you have to get rid of these, okay? You have to get rid of those fibs and redraw it. You can't just keep those there because things change. So yeah, keep an eye on this. If it wants to, it could come back down into this little area right in here at the 386 or 382. That'd be $54. But that doesn't mean it has to get there, right? That's just a what if. What if this thing breaks down, right? You do have your 50 EMA and your 20 down here around 52. So just things to keep an eye on. Okay. It is looking better, though. I will say that. It's looking better. Okay. Let's see. So any other questions on Monero? All right, moving on. We'll go to Neo USD. I don't think anything's really changed. Well, maybe it has. Hang on here. Let me get that out of there because it made a lower low. And let's get rid of that. Okay, so it stopped right close to the 78.6. It did break below just a hair and then had a bullish engulfing candle that completely overtook that red stick and then started its uptrend. But it's had this little pattern right here, bearish engulfing, and it's just kind of going sideways for now. It's just churning. All right, so let's go redraw the fibs from, let's go from that high down to this low and see if it stopped anywhere. Yeah, around the 38.2, but again, it's testing the 200 and the 233, right, which are coming into this old area, right, which is resistance. So this is the area it has to get above, right? You're still going to have a problem with probably a 50% retracement. You know, some people go, oh, well, it just retraced half of that down move, and then now it's time to go back down again. But to me, the 50% is not, it's not a fib number. It's not a Fibonacci number, right? But it does play a part in some people's thinking. So I would say just watch this area right here. If it gets above, you know, we'll see what happens when it gets above 10.25, 10.50. But for now, it's just kind of consolidating and churning. And you can see this just over the past, month and a half. It's just basically range bound in a trading zone. And that's not bad, right? Because it was doing the same thing here, came up, made higher highs, and then churned down, but it didn't make a lower low. That's important. Low over here, higher low. Now can it move past and go up? Okay? And it almost looks like that could be some sort of, it's a small cup, right? It's a small cup or possibly an inverted head and shoulders. I don't see a big head and shoulders there, but more like a cupping type pattern, right? So if I was to get a drawing tool, let's see. I don't know what this brush is going to do. Probably screw things up. Something like that. All right. Didn't draw it real well, but like a cupping type deal, you know, over here to here, back to here. Can it hold right there? That's going to be the key. So let me get this out of here and I'll do something else on it real quick. Let's do this. Okay. Let's zoom in so we can see it better. And let's just draw the fib from here to there. Okay. We're at the 0.382, which is an important Fibonacci number, right? Let's see if it can hold that. If it holds that would be a very bullish sign. Very bullish. If not, you're more than likely coming back to 870, right? Possibly even retesting that low right there. But for me on Neo, I would want to see like this cupping pattern. From this low, draw a line, you know, like a rounding type deal. From here to here, and then coming up and just making an arc, right? And if you draw that out, it probably lines up right in this area. So let's see if it holds it and pushes it higher. It's actually not a bad looking chart. So let's just see if that happens, right? Just something to watch. Okay, any questions about Neo? Okay, Freeze, and I'll take a look at MKR here in just a sec. And you want the ETH pair. Okay. Okay, you're welcome, Todd. Let's go to MKR. I don't think I've ever looked at this one. Or have I? I guess we're getting ready to find out. Nope, I have not. Okay. Okay, I'm just eyeballing it. Let's see. Okay, so here's an example. Okay, I have never seen this chart in my life before, right? And I'm just going to try to do it with my eyeballs before I ever throw on a fib, okay? But I'm going to go back to the high back here to the low down here. And my guess is it either going to be the 50% retracement or the 61.8 that stopped it. Let's just take a look. Okay, let's just take a look. And I don't know if I actually drew that right on it. Nope, I didn't. There we go. So it's the 61.8. Okay, so let's get that out of there. 38.2 and 50. Okay. 61.8. All right. Didn't hit it spot on, and in fibs it doesn't really have to hit it spot on. It could wick a little bit higher, a little lower. Doesn't have to hit it spot on, right? And now we're in this pattern where right there, some people would have thought it was a bull or a bear flag. That little pattern right there, because you had such a big move to the downside, and then you're basically just making higher lows and higher highs, which forms that flag, and then it usually breaks down out of that. But this broke up. So let's see what else is going on with this. Nice little, it's not really a hammer candle, but that's a dragonfly doji. That was green. So it's like it put in a bottom there, and let's see why it put in a bottom. Was it because of that? Right there, that support. So it did that. Okay. And these are just things you can draw on your chart, right? Old support over here, support right there. Now the question is, where are we going? Okay, well, let's just see, first of all, doing this, let's draw this fib to the bottom of the Dragonfly Doji and see why it's stopping right here, okay? Let's go to settings, let's throw in our 50, right there, 50% retracement. Okay? So this could just churn just a little bit, but the moving averages are coiled up right here, right? They're coiling up. So hold this area right here and just let it may take a few days, but let it base a little bit, and then let's see if it breaks out of this congestion zone or if it breaks down, right? That's what I would be watching. I don't know that I would be all... I mean, I guess you could get in, right? But I would have a very tight stop. I just... The way this thing is. It depends on... Are you going to hold it for a long time? What's your time frame on holding something like this? All right, let's go to a weekly and take a look at that and see what's going on. You know, and here's something else you have to look at. Is on your weekly, right? Look at all time frames. So you had a bearish engulfing back here on the weekly chart, right? And things move down. You want to see this get back and hold that 20-day moving average, and especially the 50. That's the big one. That's the one you want to hold. This green line right here, you want to hold the 50-day moving average. Hold that, and things should be good. You're getting a little burn off on the stochastic RSI. That could take another couple of weeks before it gets down to a bottom. And then you've got, you hopefully get it into oversold conditions and still maintain price. That's what you're hoping for. And if it does, then you're looking at a move back up here, which is a fib cluster at, what is that, 465? So fib cluster showed up here, but you're going to have resistance. Obviously here, you'll have resistance at 428, and then it moves to 465 where it will meet major resistance. Chain link. Yeah, let me go back and I'll go over that one again real quick. Let's see. Don't want that. Let's go to the faves, because it is one of my faves. And isn't this interesting? Wow. Okay, guys. Oh, you're welcome, Friesen. My pleasure. Okay. So if you're looking at this chart from a longer term view, okay, and let's get our, where support was. It was down here. Weekly chart made a nice move back here in September, right? Huge move. Had the bearish engulfing candle that completely wiped out this little guy right here, and then that led to the downtrend, right? And if you look at that, to me, that just looks very corrective, right? On a daily chart, it probably looked worse than that. But that's just real corrective. And then you get this big green candle coming out of nowhere right now. I would say over the next few weeks, and if you're in chain link right now, I would be long. If you're willing to hold it for that long, right? I would say your stop loss ought to be, I would just say it ought to be like, if you've got the stomach for it, your stop loss ought to be back, golly, it ought to be below 2 for sure, because this thing is kind of volatile. But what it has to get past is this area right here. If it can get past 242, that could open the floodgates and get it going really good, right? And then if I move back to a daily chart, and we went over this earlier, it's not going to get there, I don't think, excuse me, overnight, unless some major news comes out, obviously. And we know with crypto, if any kind of news comes out, these things can just run forever. But you're going to have some resistance at, 248 and then 270, right? And then back up here around 290, which this old area right over here will be, resistance for sure. But I do like it longer term. Hey, S-Finder, how are you doing? I can hear you. I see you. Guys, get your questions together. I'll be back in like 30 seconds. Okay, who's got questions? Any questions? Do I need to refresh? Well, let me see here. Let me refresh this real quick. Well, maybe I shouldn't. Everybody else hear me okay? Is it just S-Finder? Oh, okay, there you go. Good. Okay, so that's Chainlink, right? That's Chainlink, which I like. Let's go look at which one is that? Xerox Protocol? Oh, there we go. All right, perfect. Let's go look at another one of my favorites just real quick. Let's look at DGB. And let's see what's going on with that one. So it came down and it broke below this support line, which I do not like. But it did hold the 1272 retracement. If it can bust back above 71, we'll call it 70. Let's call it 73. DGB back above 73. This may not be a bad spot to get in. Your risk, and let's add this. If I get my eyeballs working, there we go. Your risk, if it breaks 66, is going to be 57 sats. And if it gets down here, I would be a buyer all day long to add more. If you don't have any, then that would be an ideal spot, maybe even in here. DGB, and not only that, but you know, here we are with the Bollinger Bands again. It broke below, climbed back in. I wouldn't be expecting the moon on this one just yet, but you know, it's not a bad one if you want to sit there and just like get 5 or 6 sats, maybe 10 at some point, because it does this, right? It does this in the past. It'll make moves, so it could get back into the 80s from here, you know, which would be a good spot to, you know, lock in some profits. Just sit there and swing trade it, you know what I mean? But you got to be willing to hold a little bit. Okay, what else do we got? Let's see. I got a bunch of junk on here too. Oh, XLM. I wanted to look at that one. That one had a... Seemed like people were mentioning that in the channel the other day. It had this nice move right here. Everything bounced off the 1272. And let's see if something lines up around the 200 and the 233. Let's just see what we got. If anybody wants to look at XLM or not. Let's see, 38.2. Yeah, 236. Okay. So you'd want to get it back above this area that was support on XLM, right? Support, 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 broke below, and now it's turning into resistance maybe. So we'll see what happens. Does it stay below the resistance line, or can it break above and start, you know, turning a little bit more bullish? I mean, still a bearish chart if you ask me. But let's see what happens if it gets above that resistance line. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Anything you want me to go over charting wise? Fibonacci, clusters, anything like that? Oh, really? Okay. I've never noticed about XRP and XLM if they move together or not. That's interesting, though. Okay, let's see here. What about, oh gosh, and I hope you guys heeded my advice on Matic. The day that this happened right here, if you guys were here for my live stream, I talked about it. I said I've seen this pattern too many times, and when something like that happens and then crashes immediately, it's just going to take a long time to get over, right? Not saying it can't eventually get back up into this range, you know, the 300s, but it's going to take a long time, right? And you see what's happening. You got all these bag holders up here that got trapped, and they're all wanting to either, some of them average down a little bit, and now they're just trying to cut losses. get close back to even as much as they can. And once those guys are washed out, then it'll start to make its move again. But in the meantime, it is just painful to watch. And yes, Friesen, I feel sorry for a lot of those people. I really do. Because I've been in that boat before. I really have. Long, long time ago. And it taught me a lesson. Take your profits. So, anyway, that's Matic. Let's look at RVN real quick. That's another one that's kind of a cult following. Held support. That's a good question, S-Finder. I can't remember the exact news on that one, but I remember the day it happened because it and RVN both came crashing down. See, here's RVN. It did the same thing that day. So I don't know what was going on with those two. But wow. It's just nuts. Anyway, RVN is holding this support area fairly well. For those that have a risky appetite, it's big time manipulation for sure. Had to be. I would almost guarantee if you go back to and just look up Matic and go back and just type it in Twitter somewhere and look back at posts, there was probably people pumping the crap out of this thing and talking, whatever to pump it up. And that's what happened. Those guys pumped it up and then they dumped everything out. Just dumped it all over people getting into it. And those guys ought to go to jail. They ought to go to jail. If they could ever track them down, lock them up. You just don't do that. Yeah, crypto Twitter. Yeah. That's why I'm saying be careful of who you follow out there. Be careful who you follow and what they're telling you. Get to know them. Get to know them real well, because I promise you there's guys out there that just, they're crookeder than the dog hind leg. So RVN, basically same situation as Matic. People are... But this thing is a little bit different than Matic in a way, because Matic just kind of went sideways for a long time and then it just spiked and then it came crashing down. Wasn't that it ever had a history of, like RVN. RVN has a history of just going up, crashing, and then it spikes a little bit, and then it comes back down, and then it, spikes, crashes, consolidates, spikes, and crashes again. So this thing out of nowhere one day could just, who knows? You just have to go back and look at the history of this thing, and it doesn't take long to figure out. What else do we got? ADA is another one that people follow quite a bit. And look at this. Oh my gosh. So this ought to be getting close to resolved at some point. I mean, look at this. Since the summer, it's been up, down, just consolidating in this range right here. Big support, huge resistance. But now we've got the 200 and the 233 crashing down here. And at some point, we'll see if these things can start leveling out a little bit and you get a move. It's going to take a move to do that, right? It's going to take ADA getting past that 200-day moving average to turn the tide here for the bulls. Right now, it's just consolidate. It's just consolidating for something. I have no idea what it is, but it is just somebody is holding this up. Right? And it did the same thing almost like Matic. I mean, look at this. Big drop, pump, and then dump. Pump, dump. Pump, dump, and then now it's going totally sideways because all these bag holders at 18.17, I mean, And that's a long way from 461. All these guys up here are like, I'm screwed. And not just them, but the people way back here. I mean, this thing was over 4,000 sats. Hell, it was over 8,000 sats at one point. And so what happens? You know, there's that support area. It looks juicy to me. I mean, if you've got the stomach to hold it for a long time, that's the question. Because you could get stuck in this thing for a long time. It may not be, if you've got some money, right? If you've got some spare change laying around and you're just wanting to put it on something long term, put it on ADA. Put it on ADA. And just let it sit there and come back and check on it in 6 months and see what's going on. Or check on it 2 months from now. Who knows? If it breaks above this area right here, though, that could open the floodgates, right? You could wash everybody out finally, and then boom, it turns. It's going to be choppy going up. Don't get me wrong. It's going to be choppy going up because you still have bag holders, but you're still going to have, like, you know, some stuff to get through. All right, so that's ADA. Are you in it too, Friesen? Yeah, absolutely. And that's the whole thing. That's one of those that you just don't even. It's like you just put into your. It's similar to DGB, right? You just put it away and come back and check on it later date somewhere down the line, you know. But don't tie up all your capital. You know what I'm saying? Now, some people could, if you zoom in, if you're quick about it, some people could just, you know, and if you're following my trading style, you know, you could get in when it hits a support area and then just write it up and then collect free shares. Just collect free shares right in here, you know? And then don't tie up your capital. Use your capital to make you some money and keep a little bit in the bank, you know, and so that way, then you don't have to worry about your capital, right? It's all free. Let it ride. Aux, ADA, Chainlink, yeah, EOS. That was another one I was going to look at. ETH. Okay, you want me to look at ETH? NAMI, look around December 20th, okay? And this is on ADA. Okay, here's December 20th. Okay, this is December 20th. There's nothing that sticks out in my mind about that particular date or this area, right? To me, this is just like, which cause of correction could be? Well, I don't know about new lows. I mean, from here, yes. From 440, could it get down to 398? Absolutely. Because that's been previous support in the past, right? Now the thing is, here's the thing. What has ADA been doing since this low over here? Okay, made a low here, made a higher low right here, higher low here, and is this area going to be a higher low? That's going to be the question. right? The only thing that makes me wonder is look at this bearish engulfing candle. Just as ADA is trying to bottom, right? It's trying to bottom out, make a bottom, and then all of a sudden here come the sellers again. It's like it's that washout phase. You know, you got all those bag holders at higher prices, and until you wash them out and get them out of the way, this has no chance of like breaking out. See that? Bearish engulfing. People saw the pump, or what little pump it was, and just sold right back into it. Somebody's dumping on this thing. All right? That's a big bearish engulfing candle. And that right there is not a reversal, so to speak. I mean, it could be a short term, but it's not a big time reversal, right? You had a doji and then a green stick, but it didn't even get halfway to the red stick. So I don't even, I don't even look at that as like anything significant. Of course, I could be wrong. It could be the start of something. Again, we had higher lows coming all the way up in here. So does this area hold? Just take your horizontal ray and do that. All right? That area ought to hold. Yeah. I get what you're saying. Right in here. Right? Yeah. I mean, one could even do this, right? If you're looking real close, let's do a horizontal ray and just say back in here, when it looked like you had some support, right? Somewhere around in this area, right here, support, boom. So you had support, goes higher, tries to hold there, it can't, and it breaks below. So now what do? We turn this to red. That is resistance. Because of the way it rejected off of that line. This was a support area, a supposed support, when it was trying to break out. Support, tries to go higher, hits resistance, rejects, comes back down, can't hold support. And now it's trying to make its way back up, and that turns into resistance. So get above 487, and let's see what happens. Or let's just call it 500 to be on the safe side. In the meantime, it's just more chop. And again, people could just sit there and try to swing trade this, right? If you wanted to, if you have the risk appetite for it. But it just does not look, I don't know, could it take off from here and maybe test the 200? Sure it could. Still has plenty of resistance up here, but at some point it'll break out. It's going to be down the line. Okay, let's see what, any questions? Anything about moving averages, Fibonacci, Fib clusters? Any chart requests? Or anything in general about the crypto market? Any questions? Yeah, moving averages. Okay. So Fabio, what do you want to know? Like what you should put on your chart? Or what do they mean? Okay, so to trade moving averages properly, let's just go back and we'll stick on ADA for a second. Okay. Everything I said. Okay, I got you. All right. Well, first of all, here's what I do. Okay, and I'm going to type it in channel, right? 20, 50, 100 EMA. Okay, and then I do a 200 and 233 simple. Okay. So shorter moving averages, and the 100 day you could do in simple also, but the 10, the 20, and the 50 all ought to be exponential moving averages. It just, they update quicker, right? 100, 200, and 233, they take a little longer to up. I mean, it's just, for EMAs, it just doesn't work real well. I mean, it's going to be similar, but you're going to have price difference. But anyway, that's what I use, okay? And so basically, here's what I do. When I look at something and I'm thinking about taking a long, I could either look at it from, if I'm trying to pick a bottom, say to speak, if a price goes below the Bollinger Band, I could take a position here, or I could wait and see if this is a real deal, right? And what's going to be a real deal to me? I'm going to zoom in and I'm going to show you. Okay. The 10 EMA is right here in blue. Okay. The 20 is in red. So what I'm watching for, and you can see how this does over here in the past, the 10 tries to cross the 20 and price is trying to push it higher, but it fails, right? It doesn't cross. And then price goes lower. Does the same thing right here. Goes lower. But then it holds. And I'm sure if we went and looked at Fibonacci and you plugged that in, that would work well too. But just for speaking sake, it breaks above the 10, the 20, and then here you go. You get a cross, right? You want to wait until, and if you look at this on a shorter time frame, it also works. But you want to see price come back and hold, right? It was breaking right here. You want to see price come back and hold the 10 and the 20, and then you can play the bounce off that. That's another way you can play it. But you want to make sure to take your profits, right? But keep some on the table because you just never know. I can pull up, hell, let's go look at, I know Matic did this. Let me go pull it up. Hang on. Okay, here we go. Here's Matic. So what happens on Matic? Down below the Bollinger Band, moving averages start to come up. We rally. 10 crosses the 20. Price goes up, hits the upper Bollinger Band, bounces back down, but what does it do? It holds the 20-day moving average and then bounces off that, and then look what happens. Okay? You want to wait until it crosses, right? And the only way it can cross is on a daily chart, right? You got to wait until that candle closes. And normally what's going to happen is it'll come back and retest that moving average to make sure it's good, and then that's your bounce point. That's what you're looking for, okay? And you're also looking to see, you want to make sure all these moving averages are like moving up together, right? They're all moving up together. And then look what happens on Matic. Once it breaks out and it gets above the Bollinger Bands, it starts to pull back in. Well, what's it do? It tests the 10 EMA right there in blue and holds it. Price outside Bollinger Band, pulls back in, holds the 10 EMA. Higher, test the 10 EMA, right? Finally hits a top right, at resistance, and then pulls back. And then once it breaks below the 10, that's it. 10 EMA are shorter term traders, right? That's how you have to think of this. The higher term or the higher moving averages are longer term traders. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. But that's what happens with moving averages. For instance, Bitcoin. And I will actually pull over, let's see here. Let's do this. Let's just do this. Okay, so moving averages. If you zoom out on a Bitcoin chart, okay, and let's just zoom way out on a daily chart. If I was to scroll back in here, all these moving averages started to line up and started hooking up at the same time. And they get things going in the right direction, right? What that does when it starts hooking up, it brings the 10 and the 20 or the 200 and the 233 with it. But then this thing goes parabolic and it can't sustain it. So price has to gravitate back toward the longer term holders, right? Which are right in here. They try to test it again and they can't get through. See that? It got roadblocked right at the 200-day moving average. Right there. So everybody that was thinking back in here that, hey, this is a great buying opportunity and then it's going to rocket back to 50,000, it just doesn't work that way, right? Price has to, everybody up here was bag holders. 20,000 was bag holder territory, right? It's similar to Matic. Very similar. Bag holders, okay? Sells off. People are just totally at wit's end. Just get me out of this scam. I'll average down, and once it bounces, I'll get out. And that's what's going on here. They're just, averaging in, getting out. And then more sell-off. People just finally give up. And then now you get them washed out, right? Down here was the bottom. Seen it too many times. Washed out, and then you get the rally. And now we get up here, and we still have a few people left over here that still want to get out. So what happens? We start to sell off just a little bit. Now, let's go sideways just a little bit and try to work our way out of this. And now these people are hopefully washed out. That's what we're looking for. We just want to wash them out. And it takes time to do that. Just wash them out of the market. Get them out. You don't want to be in, get out. If you're not a believer, get out. Once they're out, then price goes up. But we have to watch this area right here at 9,000 very, very closely. Because it could pull off another one of these. All right? Right there. Where it can't break through the 200 and the 233. Price will always gravitate back to it. Okay? But you want to see it break through. That'll give the bulls the advantage. If it fails at 9,000, then we're going down. And more than likely coming back to test this longer term trend line. Right? But if it breaks through, and as you can see, if I draw this out, see that triangle we're in? right there or right here. This could just go sideways for quite a while, right? I mean, I'm zoomed out and you're looking at the chart. This could just go sideways for quite a while before it decides to break out or break down. So all these people that are talking about 200,000 Bitcoin or 50,000 or whatever, they can kiss my rear end. Because it's not working that way just yet. I've got to see it break some stuff before I start to climb on board and say that, yeah, that we're going in that direction. Right now, we're chopping, right? And there's going to be big moves here and there, but we're just chopping around, okay? But 9,000 is going to be a key area. Mark it down. Mark it down. Now, if it can break and close above 9,000, that'll get my radar up. That will make me, that'll really get me going. I do use log charts. Yes. I'm not so much on the technical part of Bitcoin as far as the halving. I mean, I know everybody talks about what happened last time and whatnot, but could it? Maybe, you know. I'm just gonna, golly, I don't know. I really don't have thoughts either way. When I first heard about it, I thought, okay, well, maybe, looking at the chart last time, but then I saw somebody else post and they were talking about some hashing rate and blah, blah, and I just don't know any of that stuff. So I'm just looking at the charts, I'm just going to continue to, take my profits. I'm not going to get too crazy about it, and then I'm just going to let some free stuff ride. And if it does what it does, then I'm fine. If not, I'm good. So, anyway. Okay, what else do we got? Looking at some other stuff. Log versus regular? Yeah, I mean, if you was to do it, I mean, it's all price based and time based. CC, if you was to change your chart, and you can open up multiple charts. If you just open up one in a regular and one in a log, you'll see the difference. I mean, probably 95% of traders will use log. But then again, some people may not know, right? So I would use a log-based chart because it keeps price real. You know what I'm saying? Just keeps it real, whereas a regular it fluctuates too much. Yeah, pretty much what I said. Just go to a log chart. It keeps it, when you're scrolling in, out, it just keeps everything on an even keel, so to speak. Let's look at ZRX real quick. So ZRX broke the 38.2 and is testing the 50 and retracing back off that. Double bottom here still, possibility on ZRX. Okay, I would still be watching this one very closely. And if ZRX can break, God, there's 1, 2, 3 fib clusters. So that just tells me 3 resistance zones if this moves higher. 200 and 233 are right there. So bulls want to see it get above that, right? Silent Jet. After a decent move up, would you put buys on the 61.8 automatically or wait for price action to develop? No, I mean, no. I would, it depends on where everything lines up. Where are the moving averages? What's the candlestick pattern look like? To me, I look at everything. I look at, before I base a decision, I want to see what did the candlestick pattern look like, what moving averages are where, and then go from there. But a 61.8 is a good area to either buy or sell from, if you wanted to buy or short from. Absolutely. But from what I've seen lately on cryptos, and I've looked at tons of them, it just seems like more of them bounce from the 78.6. You know what I'm saying? Bounce or its resistance. I mean, the 61.8 still is important. It's very important. But the 78.6 just seems on these things just seems to be more reliable. That's just me looking at a lot of charts, right? I mean, I don't see all charts, but most of the ones I've seen, it's like the 78.6 is just magic. And if you can line up a 78.6 with a 61.8, yeah, I would be buying all day long. I mean, that would be very healthy. Very healthy. And that's why I do fib clusters, right? Because, you can draw them from different areas. You can draw them from a longer term view to a shorter term view. And that's where I come up with fib clusters. Because I want to see if something lines up just spot on perfect. And if it does, that just tells me that's a more important area than what people think. Right? It takes some of the guessing out of it. How long it takes me to make a decision after I TA a chart? Not long. Not long. I probably, gosh, I can do a chart probably in 15, 20 minutes. Like getting in depth with it and looking at everything, maybe less. It doesn't take me long. No, it doesn't take me long at all. Nope. For some reason, charts just seem to, and you guys have seen, I mean, when I've gone over a live chart, I can almost call where the fib number is going to be by looking at a chart, right? It's just, in my mind, I just visualize it. It's there. It's ingrained in my memory. I just kind of understand that. But what really gets me excited about stuff is like, and I don't know that this is going to play out. I really don't, and nobody does. I mean, if we all knew, then we wouldn't be in here, right? There's nobody that's 100% correct. If they are, show them to me, because I'll pay $1,000 if they never miss a trade and they're never wrong. I'll pay them $1,000 a month, but you won't find one. Now, if you somehow find somebody that's magical or claims to be magical, then I want to see their trades, because I lose money just like everybody else does. I just try to keep my losses minimal. I just try to keep them minimal. But stuff that gets me excited is like when I see stuff like this, like on Bitcoin. I'm like, okay, this idea, is it going to play out? And everything in my mind tells me that this has and I could be totally wrong, but I'm just saying in my mind it has a 90% chance of working. It has a 90% chance of working. If it's a 10% that I'm wrong, then I'm wrong, and that's it. I move on. Go to the next chart, take my small loss, and done. I don't dread about it. You know what I'm saying? And I don't get too greedy. You can't get greedy in this market. You will fail all day long. If you sit there and buy something and somebody's sitting there pumping it and saying, oh yeah, I bought it at 300 sats and it's going to go to 600 sats by next week. No, don't listen to that crap. Look at in percentages, okay? Look at percentages. You want to make 10 to 15, maybe 20% on your trades. If you can do that and compound that, get a piece of paper out, get a calculator out, and go see how much money you can make. If you do that every time, it doesn't take long, because you build up your capital. You can risk more on the next trade. Then you risk more on the next trade. And then you risk more, and it compounds. But if you sit there and get caught into something and you're stubborn about it and you're like, oh no, it'll bounce back. It'll bounce back. That's where people lose money. That's where they get out of the game forever, because they get stuck. Oh, yeah. So you have to compound your money. $20 millionaire? There you go. Guys, I could go over stories with you and just tell you. I mean, I got greedy a long time ago. And I still make, in my mind, and still at times, I still make mistakes. There may be a time where, maybe I forgot to put my stop loss in, or, hey, there's my target. I forgot to put my limit price in. I can give targets and stuff all day long. Sometimes my execution just sucks, right? It really does. And I think that's just because I get so busy with everything else, and I look at so many charts, and I just, it just, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. For sure. But it can happen, right, guys? It can happen to anybody. You just have to have discipline. You have to be very, very cautious about your capital. Protect your capital, right? It's not free money. It's your money. It's not like you're going to the casino and hoping to hit $1 million, right? You have to work at this. It's not free. You have to work. It's like a job, right? It's like you're sitting down at a job and you have to sit there and go over charts, just like somebody would go to a computer screen and do accounts payable or accounts receivable. It's a job. Or they're doing payroll. It's a job. Treat it as a job. It's your money. make it work for you. Yeah, that's true. I mean, and that's why I think and I think people don't really look at my trading philosophy or my trading plan that's in the Discord channel. I rarely get comments on it. I really do, because I think what people do, and it's just habit, right? It's just habit, and I get it. People want to go either all in on something and just they throw 100% at something because they see a Twitter post or they see something, and God forbid you see me post something, but I don't want you to go 100% on something. No. Maybe use 25% of your capital. Always keep that money back in the bank, just in case. You don't ever want to get taken out of this game, because what can happen, you go 100% in on something, and let's just say you had $500 and you go $500 all in on one thing. What happens? Well, it goes against you. And you're like, okay, well, now what do? Now you're trying to figure out how to add more money back into your account, and then it starts the snowball. And that's the worst thing that can happen. So don't go all into something, right? Just go part in. 25%, 50 at the most. And then just work the trading plan that I've lined out. It's not that hard. You just have to be disciplined. Okay, so enough of that rambling. Sorry, guys. That's how I go. Next bull run can be 6 months away. Also can be 2 years. Yeah. And that's why I'm saying just take bits and pieces and bits and pieces and bits and pieces, but always try to get it to where you can hold a small percent, right? Always keep some of that Bitcoin in your bag, right? And if you can trade it to where, like on this last move, let's just say you catch it in the middle of the move. Let's just say you get in at 7,300, or you didn't catch the exact bottom, right? But you know that this thing's going higher. Catch the meat of the move, the middle of the move, and then once it starts to go higher and it gets outside those Bollinger Bands, sell part of your move. Get your original capital out. Now, if you want to take some profit, that's fine. But at least get your original capital out. And what that does is it leaves you a portion. You don't have to take profit if you don't want. But if you want to get your original capital out, that will still leave you a position in Bitcoin. And then you just rinse and repeat. Rinse and repeat. You do that multiple times, and I guarantee you will build up your account in no time. Thanks, Friesen. Well, I appreciate you coming in here. That's awesome. I do. Fabio, I do not have a BitMEX account, so I can't help you with that. If there's somebody maybe in here in the channel, or you may actually bring it up if you're in the Discord channel, just post a question in there. I'm sure there's somebody that trades BitMEX. If not, then I would call customer support. I would just call customer support and see what they say. I trade KuCoin. That's one account. I've got Coinbase. That's another one. I've got Binance USA. That's another one. And I've got Bittrex. And I've got Coinbase Pro. So 5 different accounts. And why do you ask, do I have 5 different accounts? Because if I had all my money tied up in one account, then what happens if that exchange goes down? I'm done. I'm out of the game. So I spread it around. The chances of 5 of them going down are pretty rare. So that's why I spread my money around. And I recommend the same to everybody else. If you have the money, you know what I'm saying? Uniswap. Okay. Well, I'm open to ideas on other exchanges. Absolutely. I have no problem moving money around to other stuff if it works for me. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm in U.S., so there's some accounts I can't get into. I use zero leverage. Now, I take that back. I did try out, and I think, hang on, what was it? What was the name of that place? Dudex. Yeah, Dudex. I forgot I have some money in Dudex as well. But not a lot, you know? I don't like, now, if I want to do leverage, I will only do it on longs. I will not do it on shorts. And why do you ask? I think I told this story once before, but I'll tell it again. And this has actually happened twice to me. Well, both times were my fault. But anyway, back in 2001 or 2002, I can't remember the year, I had a S&P. I was trading the E-minis on the S&P 500. And the market was, this was after the dot-com crash. So the market was in free fall. And I was short, you know, and obviously when you're shorting, you have to trade on a margin account. And unless you just, you know, you have the cash that you don't have to worry about it, but you still have to have margin, because if it obviously goes, you know, way, way above your money, then you have to cover it. But anyway, I was short that day, and I was up about $3,000 on a short on the S&P futures. And then all of a sudden I look away for a little bit, or I went up to get some water. I can't remember what. And I came back to the screen and I looked at it and I was down like $2,000. And I was like, what in the hell just happened? And sure enough, for the first time in their history, the Federal Reserve came in and cut interest rates midday. They didn't wait until their meeting. They didn't wait until, you know, after the market, anything like that. They did it midday, surprised the crap out of everybody. And I was one of those shorts that got killed, right? So I had a $3,000 profit and it turned into a $2,000 loss. And then I can remember, of course, this wasn't really a margin thing, but I was on FX. And I was trading the, I think it was the Japanese yen? No. Oh, no, I was trading, I think it was futures again, maybe. And it was weird because I put my order in, okay? And I kid you not, I don't know how the hell this happened. It was just bad luck on my part. But I put in a short order, okay, on the future, and it was actually the S&P futures. and I put a short order in. I'm short, and as I'm going in to put my stop loss in, some news came out, and it went against me like immediately, like within 2 seconds. And I was like, what in the hell chances is that happening? You know, so that really got me off of shorting stuff. It really did. When you trade on leverage, and there was a story about a guy, and I'll just tell this real quick, and this is just how you can get destroyed shorting, okay? Because you can make mistakes. But this is a true story. There was a pharmaceutical company, and I can't remember the name of it. It's been a few years back. But anyway, this guy is looking at this stock, right? And there's talk about it going bankrupt, and I think the stock was trading around $1 that day. And it had been trading at $1 for a long time. And they were like, okay, well, it's just a shell company. It's going to go bankrupt. They're going to short it to 0, right? Or short it to 10 cents. And this guy shorts it, right? Had no stop loss, okay? He's in a meeting and his phone is blowing up. And everybody's asking him, is he okay? And he's like, what the hell are they talking about? What's going on? And so he comes back to his computer, and guess what? His short position went against him because this stock got bought out by, what's the guy's name? Martin something. He was a scam guy. He bought this shell company, and the stock went from $1 to within $14, $20 within like a matter of minutes. And this guy was short with no stop loss. And so now he's getting margin calls from E-Trade saying that he owes them $200,000. $200,000. And he went out, I think it was either later that night or the next day, and he went out to that GoFundMe and put his story all out there and told everybody about it. But that's what can happen with leverage. So just so you know. You do that, you sign an agreement, and they will come after you if, I'm just telling you, they will come after you. So I don't know if anybody helped this guy out for his dumbass mistake, but poor guy. Probably had to sell his house or mortgage it or borrow money, something, but he's hurting. $200,000, and it happened like in 5 minutes. So anyway, all right. Well, enough of that babbling. Any other questions, guys? I think I've babbled on long enough. Another one to keep an eye on. Real quick before, I don't know if it did for him or not. I didn't, I don't know. I think he got some money, but not nearly $200,000. I mean, people were probably looking at it like, oh, you made a mistake? Why am I going to go pay for your mistake? You were the dumbass, right? No stop loss on a short. Yeah. Silent Jet, I will keep these going, I promise. I'm going to do them more often. Real quick, before I leave, let's look at BSV, okay? And you guys remember, I told you guys when I got in back in here and it made that move and then I sold some but kept some. This is why I keep some, right? Because this is a normal retracement. And now we're getting a possible reversal off the 50% retracement. And here's what I'm looking at longer term, right? See this little trend line right here? See that? If it breaks above that, it could run. So I mentioned a while back, this is a bullish looking chart. Okay, very bullish looking chart. Just keep that in the back of your minds. BSV, and that's the BTC pair. Keep that in your minds, right? If it breaks through that, she's got room to run. So with that, I'm going to give it a 2-minute call. If y'all have any questions, chart requests. You know what? Some people draw it from the wicks. Some people draw it from the body lines, let's just look at BSV for example. Okay, I drew it from the wicks, and that's where I tend to draw it from. But it doesn't mean that it's always correct, right? Because you may want to go and just change your chart from candle to line, and you can see the difference, right? So if I just drag this down, okay, and just drag it down to the closes, oops, let's just do this. And this actually looks pretty interesting. I'm glad I did this. Some people look at a line chart, right? And you're drawing it from the closing price. So what happens when we draw it from the closing price? From here to there. It rejects it there. Now it broke above it. And what did it do? And this is rather interesting, really, when you think about it. And I'm glad I'm looking at this. But what did it do? It broke through that trend line and it came back and retested it, right? See that? Hit it spot on. Retested that trend line and broke off of that. So sometimes that's why you have to switch between candles and line charts. A lot of people want to look at candles, but line charts are based on closing prices, right? So you draw that and then you look and see what happens, and that can give you a different view, right? So that's where sometimes, I could be more, I could be better about this. I really could. I'll just admit it. Now, I'm not afraid to admit when I'm wrong, but I was wrong on this. I should have looked at a line chart. If I looked at a line chart, I would have probably been buying back in here and forget whatever it wicked to. Based on that closing price, I probably would have bought back in. You know what I'm saying? Just more. All right, Friesen. No, not really. No specific number for touches. All right, Friesen, have a good night. Thank you for coming in. And guys, if you'll do me a favor, if you could hit the like button, that would really help me out a lot. I would appreciate it. No, excuse me. So that's your difference between drawing it from candles and from the closing prices. I mean, it can make a difference, right? Excuse me. All right, Fabio, have a good evening. Thank you, sir. I better not be coming down with this crap again. I will just absolutely go off. All right, so I'm going to give it another minute here in case y'all have any questions. Any questions? All right, guys. Well, I think I'm going to call it a night and go get me something to eat. And we will plan on seeing you all tomorrow in the Discord channel. And I'll have another live stream coming up soon. So just keep your eye on Twitter. I'll announce it there. And I'll also keep it on Discord as well. So, guys, thanks again for everything. Appreciate you all coming in. And it's been fun, really fun. I love teaching. So anyway, y'all have a good night, and we'll see you later.